Okay. All right. Well, welcome to Peter White Public Library and tonight's NEA Big Read Keynote address by Brandon Garlow and Fiona Byrne Ryan. Did I say that right, Byrne? Okay, good. My name is Marty Acketts, and I'm the Adult Programming Coordinator for the library, and I'm also the NEA Big Read Organizer. For those of you who showed up to hear or tuned in to hear Professor Amber Morceau, never fear, we will have Amber for a future presentation at Peter White Public Library. However, last week I received this email from Amber, and I'm going to quote it here. I wanted to reach out to you today to see if you would be interested in having Brandon and his family present on their journey. Detailed below, I'm offering my spot on November 1st to make room for Brandon because I believe his work is critical in understanding why works like An American Sunrise are pivotal in understanding Indigenous worldview. And how could I say no to that? Since Brandon and Fiona are only in the area for a short while, and since their message and cause is so close to the themes and ideas in Joy Harjo's An American Sunrise, I couldn't say no to this opportunity to have them present tonight. So a little bit about Brandon and Fiona. Brandon and Fiona are the creators of Running into a New Earth, a purposeful journey into the unknown powered by their hearts and rediscovering their oneness with all living things. Setting out on a series of extended physical challenges around Turtle Island, North America, to awaken their spirits to the human experience and give back to Indigenous causes. From this place, they can heal, embody a new way of being, and carve the way for a new earth. And for the keynote description, they sent me, it's why living in discomfort is our gateway out of a life of complacency into a life steeped in meaning. And I've been trying to start all of these events for the NEA Big Read with a poem that seemed appropriate from Joy Harjo. And so I found this poem, which I think is completely and totally appropriate for tonight. It's called For Those Who Would Govern. First question, can you first govern yourself? Second question, what is the state of your own household? Third question, do you have a proven record of community service and compassionate acts? Fourth question, do you know the history and laws of your principalities? Fifth question, do you follow sound principles, look for fresh vision to lift all the inhabitants of the land, including animals, plants, elements, all who share this earth? Sixth question, are you owned by lawyers, bankers, insurance agents, lobbyists, and other politicians, anyone else who would unfairly profit by your decisions? Seventh question, do you have authority by the original keepers of the lands, those who obey natural law and are in the service of the lands on which you stand? Please welcome to Peter White Public Library, Brandon Garlow and Fiona Byrne Ryan.
Well, thank you for such a warm introduction and for having us today. We're very grateful to be here. So we are Brandon and Fiona, and it was about a month since we sold our house, and we now are nomads, and we live in a tent here in Marquette. Currently is our home.
Yep, just as the weather's turning. But it's been good. We've been good living in a tent, and we're not afraid of the cold weather. We say, bring it on, because that's the first question people ask us. Isn't it cold up there? We're like, yes, but we're ready for it. Before we start, we want to give thanks. We're very grateful for being here, as Fiona said. We want to acknowledge the Unwe of this land, the original people of this land, the Anishinaabe, for welcoming us into their territory and welcoming us to stay here while we run to a new earth.
We also want to acknowledge Lake Superior, who is right there, and her presence that has really drawn us to this life and has an ongoing impact on how we're living our life. So we just want to acknowledge her wisdom, her strength, her power, and we welcome her into this room this evening.
Yeah, we definitely just being near Lake Superior, we definitely feel her presence, and it's helped empower us on this journey as well. So what we're going to talk about tonight is complacency.
Yes. So about a year ago, there was a time when we looked at our life and we asked, is this our life? Are we living the life that we chose, or are we just living the life that had been set out for us?
And this question could not escape us. We had a deep feeling of unfulfillment, unsatisfactory, and we just could not, no matter what we did everything that we thought we needed to do, that we were supposed to do, but we were always left with that feeling deep down of unfulfillment.
And it was bringing awareness to this thought that we realized that we were being complacent. We were not stepping up and admitting that there was parts of our life and ourselves that we weren't happy with, and that we needed to do more in order to find out who we are, why we're here, and what is the meaning of our lives as a human being here on Mother Earth.
And that's where we are, running into a new earth.
So we brought awareness to that, and we continue to bring awareness to everything in our life, and that is the complacency of our actions. And that is, so we decided that what does it mean to be a human being, and how can we fully experience that? And we did receive a sign and to go and join the Water Protectors up in northern Minnesota. And it was such a powerful message that we received that evening that we decided there and then that yes, we are going to follow that sign, and we are going to leave everything that we know, everything that we thought we knew about life behind, get into our car with our family and our son, our young son, and our dog, and set forth on a journey of meaning and purpose on our way to northern Minnesota.
Yep. And we don't know where this journey is leading us, but we know we've been called to do it, and we're just going to continue on following our hearts, and that's where we're at today.
So that introduces our video. So this is a video of leg one of our journey of running into a new earth.
First strides north.
Yes.
It's coming up, I swear. It's these enemy laptops, Marty.
It's not the first time we've heard that.
Oh, yeah. Just a second, I'm gonna, it's like frozen up, but I will get it up in a second. Yes, lately, aliens enjoy drinking.
Upper Peninsula, Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, and some northern Minnesota.
And of course, we'll get rid of that.
There's a lot of talk about climate, but the term climate misses the mark when we are discussing the future of our planet. It's as if it is something separate from us, as if we are not intrinsically connected with the earth.
We believe that there is a different way to live our lives, not just in the way we do things, like moving from a house to a tent, but how we perceive the world around us. We are setting out around Turtle Island to see how we can awaken our spirits to this human experience here on Earth, so that we may heal, embody a new way of being, and carve the way for a new Earth.
We don't have all the answers, but our hearts are telling us to listen, and that is what we are going to do.
Hi, we are Brandon and Fiona.
And we have sold our house and moved into a tent with our 2-year-old son and our dog. We're setting miles combined to represent the 227 sacred bodies of water that pipeline line 3 is running over and through.
This journey is going to take us deep into the forest on the North Country Trail through Michigan's Upper Peninsula into northern Wisconsin and northern Minnesota.
Maybe home. It was a big moment. I always thought, you're always thinking like, what's it gonna feel like the moment we leave East West stage? And that moment's here. And I tell you what, it feels pretty damn good, doesn't it?
It does.
It feels good.
Thank you for being here with us.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for East West thing.
Yeah, we're moving on.
Moving on.
We've been on the road for a couple hours, and we had a couple of stops. And it just feels nice today to just be going to our campsite. We booked a campsite for the next 2 nights, so that we can kind of settle into this new way of life. And we have a couple of things to do on the internet, so we don't want to be too in the wilderness. Still get on the trails and you're running and get used to trail running as well.
As we set up at our campsite for the first night in this new chapter of our life, we realize that this new chapter will not hold the same energy as anything from our past. There is a new elevated feeling. We have set ourselves up for this moment in time in so many ways. Our spirits are ready to take flight, but our minds still want to grip onto the so-called comforts of societal life. But we have everything we need, and it's almost as if this moment was perfectly crafted for us. We can't even imagine this moment through the lens of anything we already know, because there are so many potentials and possibilities waiting for us as we take our first strides north.
Our first evening out on the North Country Trail.
Yep, we're home. We're set up.
Into the tiny campsite that's literally on the lake on the North Country Trail. It just kind of happened. It was just I went into this app that I started using, found a campsite, said that one, okay, that one.
When we left today, we had no idea where we were actually going to stay tonight.
Yeah.
But we weren't stressing at all. We knew where we're going to stay. That's where we're going to stay. And here we are at this amazing spot.
Like, we're going to be running on this trail right here tomorrow. And it all begins.
Also tomorrow, it's the beginning of something very important for us, and we don't want to just step into it without setting some really heartfelt intentions first. And actually we want to do a ceremony before we start running tomorrow. So it's going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of thought, a little bit of patience, but we can just ease into this wonderful run ahead of us.
Before we begin our journey of running into a new earth, we must acknowledge our current way of being. We live our lives today with an extractive mentality. We look towards Mother Earth as a resource instead of a relative. This causes much pain, not only to Earth, but to ourselves. We are Mother Earth, and now we give thanks.
We thank Mother Earth for loving us, still, as she has since the beginning of time. The fact that we are still here shows us that she still loves us and trusts us to do the right thing and to do right by her. We're thankful for having the spiritual strength to take this journey, to leave the structures of society behind in order to explore life on a deeper level. Thank you for the strength to rediscover our oneness and to expand into a new way of being. Thank you to our bodies for having the physical conditioning to take on such a challenge. Thank you to all the gifts of creation that make life here on Earth possible. And now we venture into the woods, to run into a new Earth so we can discover a new way of being. We run with our hearts full of gratitude and love for Mother Earth, all living creatures, each other as human beings, and for the next 7 generations. They will be the ones who inherit the Earth that we leave behind. It's for them that we must realign ourselves back to nature. It's for them that we must carve a new way of being. Okay, we're ready. Ready with the trails. Alright, so I got the GoPro ready. I got our GPS, our locator ready in case we get into any shit out there. And then we'll have our phones. We're tracking each other live. So we'll know where we're at all times. Other than that, I think we're good. I'm gonna run like 9 miles today, so we won't have to carry the full backpack of water. I think we'll be okay.
We have to have matching hats because I couldn't find a hat or shop that fit my small head.
That's not true. Because we're so involved.
Yes, so we have matching hats.
So today, I woke up and I got a text message from my mother-in-law, and she sent an article about an oil spill that just happened in California. And that is what Ryan and Sue is all about, is to discover a new way of being, because another oil spill, and this continues to happen. So when I hit this trail today, it's for Mother Earth, it's for the next 7 generations, and it's to rediscover our connection. It's what it means to be human amongst all this beauty.
Brandon's off on the first leg of our run. So I'm going to get in the car and go and meet him at the first road that intersects the trail.
On the trail. First step. First strides north. Surreal being here because there's been a lot of build-up to this moment. Here I am. I've been nervous, but today I'm ready. I'm ready to expand, to explore, challenge myself. It's a new way of being. Now, I run. So what does this mean for you, Fiona?
It means learning how to listen to nature and reconnecting with nature. I'm ready for the first strides north and to step into this challenge that we've given ourselves and to see what comes of it and see what becomes of ourselves when we do it.
In order to find a new way of being, we have to strip ourselves down from everything we know and everything that we're supposed to believe in, or what we think we should be doing. And within this rawness of life, now we can begin to explore to explore what it means to be a human being.
Where is it safe to raise a child? Our first thoughts would not have been a tent in the forest. But as we grow into this life, we see the rich experiences we can provide our son. Perhaps his spirit is safer here, roaming free within the wild.
The campsite that we wanted to camp at this evening is actually closed. They closed on the 6th of September and they're not going to be open again until May. We went further into the forest. You can actually camp anywhere around here. There's a lot of little like rustic campsites. The only thing is that they don't have water. So we're sussing the scene out.
We've been wanting to leave the confines of city life for ages. But now that we're here, our mind keeps trying to grasp onto the comforts and conveniences of living in a house. Because out here, our minds have nothing to grasp onto.
We don't know how long we're going to be living in a tent. We don't even know what the next week holds for us. And thinking about these things, our mind finds comfort, escaping back to societal expectations.
When we think about these things, it's easy to become overwhelmed. But when we get back into our heart space, we know that this is exactly where we're supposed to be. We may not know what all this is leading to, or how exactly we're going to get there. But what we do know is whatever our heart has in store for us, it is worth trusting.
Day number 2, and the trail. My mind's not wandering as much as it was on the first day, a couple days ago. I've never been in the wild like this on my own before. Well, I haven't been there. It's very peaceful. It's very quiet. Having spent 4 nights now in the woods. I'm getting used to it, getting used to the quiet. It's an amazing trail. Feeling good. It's so cool meeting at crossroads in the woods where 2 footpaths intersect. Just makes me feel about what was it like when this was how people lived. The indigenous here on Turtle Island, where just pathways would cross and people might meet each other at them. And that's how people lived. Amazing. What a quality of life. What a way to live when you connected to forests.
approaching camp, probably about 1 or 2 miles ahead. And I said, I can't state this enough. How incredible it is to be out here in this forest. It's just so powerful, so peaceful, so precious. How can we ever destroy something like this? It's an honor to be out here. And this is why we're going.
Day 2 of running into New Earth is complete. So we both ran today around 5.6 miles.
All right, 11.8.
Since we're in dispersed camping, there are no showers, but there's a lake at the campsite that's closed that we wanted to camp at originally. We're walking down to the lake now to wash off.
Take a dip in the nip.
Take a dip in the nip.
Being in the woods for just a short period of time has already shown us how precious Earth's resources are. In fact, they're not even resources, but gifts.
Mother Earth is still kind enough to give us these gifts. But how much can we continue to take without giving back?
It's another morning on camp, running into a new Earth.
Cheers, my love.
Cheers, love.
Just having a nice, fresh brewed coffee in the forest.
We are off to Brandon's drop-off spot for today.
Oh, we've been tired, but you know what? That's okay. Legs feel good. So all is good. Just flowing. You know, I'm not trying to. I haven't been thinking at all. I've just been focusing on my breath. You know, and our breath is part of the life force. Every time we breathe that air in, we're breathing the force of life. That's what it is out here. This is life. This is the force of life that we're a part of. You don't have to think of it. You just have to be. Just be. And just feel it in your heart. And I'm running with an open heart. And you're present every moment of the way, all the way down the trail. Yeah? Isn't it? It's like I see everything. I don't even have to look.
It looks like it might be starting to rain. Oh my God, there's Dad! He's back already!
Being out in the forest has made us uncomfortable. And at first, we just thought, because we're so used to the city. But what it comes down to is the vast amount of space and depth that the forest provides.
And if you get caught in your head, you're going to get scared. The only place to reside is within your heart. It causes you to face your true self. And that is uncomfortable for a lot of us in today's world because we are so distracted.
Some good chunks in the forest, so we definitely need to fire orange.
So we're on to our
Ready? I'm ready. Second day out on the North Country Trail. Third day running. This is so nice. Wow. I've always battled with feelings of inadequacy and that I'm not capable of accomplishing things. And being out here in the woods, it's really removing that from me. This is the truth. This is the truth of everything. This is a very heavy section.
As we get into the rhythm with our runs, donations have been making their way to our GoFundMe. We have now raised over $900 for the Stop Line 3 Resistance and the Mohawk Immersion School, making each stride that touches the earth so much more meaningful. The path to a new way of being is rooted in Indigenous wisdom. That's why we are raising money for Indigenous-led movements and cultural revitalization projects.
To support and donate, we have left a link down in the description. And then we arrived at the shores of Lake Michigan, taking a sigh of relief that we had made it here. Leaving our home and our first few nights in the forest had now been accomplished. From sand to shoes, the running continued.
Stopping for a moment. Just soak in the silence. Letting your breathing hard. You can't really hear much other than your breath. Where we're at right now is up in northern Michigan, but the lower peninsula. So the northern lower peninsula of Michigan. Where we're at now is traditional land of the Odawa Indians and Anishinaabe. Manistee Forest was it was extremely powerful, but I think that's just because of it's an old forest. And not diminishing these woods at all by any means, because it's still it's so powerful being out here. But it just has a different feel. Maybe a lighter feel is a good way to describe it. The deep forest is just heavy, you know? And this just has a lighter feel to it, but I think it's a younger forest because of all the logging that took place in the early 1900s. And, but it's still gorgeous. Still unbelievable just being out here amongst it all.
That was a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I looked at it as 1,700 feet of elevation gain. Man, there was this one part, it was just running straight uphill for ages. I made it. And the trail ended down there. But I noticed I ran 12.7 miles. So I figured I'd run up here to get an official half marathon in 13.1.
Selling our house and moving into the forest for the past week was mentally, emotionally, and spiritually draining and profound. And it took a lot out of us. So we decided we would spend a few more days here by Lake Michigan in order to recharge.
Yeah, just to slow everything down, let our experiences really sink in before we just jump on to the next. But here we are, refreshed, and we're about to head back into the deep forest for week number 2 of First Strides North.
We are living a life full of deeper purpose. We want to show you how you can too. And it all starts with our free, live, 1-hour workshop, Ignite Your Dream. In the description below, there's a link to the Ignite Your Dream waitlist. Sign up today so you can experience a life that you are meant to live.
Lights here for you. There we go.
Okay.
Well, thank you everyone
Yeah.
for taking the time, watching our video.
It's always a bit funny watching yourself on a big screen.
Leg 1 was quite the experience for us, just the transition from going from the city life, and then all of a sudden we're living in a tent in the forest, running on the trail on our own, and it was a pretty big, it was a big experience for us. It was a big transition for us.
Yeah, and something that we've definitely learnt is how uncomfortable we have been out in the woods, being out in the space, and being out in the unknown. And that's definitely what we want to speak about today briefly, and then we'll open it up to a discussion, and we'd love for you guys to, if you have any questions, to get a good conversation going. But the known. So the known is really how we live our lives today. It's what we know of the paths that are set out for us. It's a lot of it's the external.
Yep, you know, we find comfort in knowing if we do this, we will get that. Then that's kind of how we just live our lives. And I don't want to speak too much on it, but you know, that's how we found with our real estate company. We knew like if we did these things, then we would get this. And then when we get all these things, then we're going to live the life that we always dream of. But the issue we were finding with that is we were doing the things that weren't aligned with us, which didn't fulfill our soul. So we were always left unsatisfied, unfulfilled, and that's where complacency set in. So we keep thinking, we keep searching for that happiness. So what you're doing is you're reinforcing these identity structures that you create for yourself. But the further you reinforce these identities and the further away from yourself you actually become, and the more unfulfilled you become.
Yes, and a lot of these identities that we pick up in this modern world that we have, you know, careers and having houses, or what place we are in the social ladder, they're all external, and it's a lot of expectations. So we're living our life waiting to get, looking for those expectations of what we expect out of life, and it's the known, and it creates a lot of duality in our life. It creates a lot of separation. So we have all those expectations that we have, the things, the external, but we're separating those from what is true, that we are connected with all living things, we are connected with all people, and we create a lot of separation in our life from going down this known path.
And what we've learned from our experience so far in the woods is the power of stepping into the unknown and understanding that we are not 100% in control of our lives. And we get stuck to this idea that we can control everything. We can control outcomes, we can control results. And from our experience, no matter what kind of plan you have or what type of control you think you have, things just kind of can fall apart on their own. And when you step into this unknown, you're stepping into this new idea of you're a co-creator in this life. And it's not about what you need to be, it's just about just being, and being without expectations, and allowing life to come to you, and allowing yourself to be a part of it and grow from that.
Yeah, and definitely being out in the deep woods. When we first started going out, you're in your head and you're trying to figure out, what is the known here? What can I expect out of my surroundings? And when you start to think like that, you start to become fearful, because you can't know everything about what's going to happen in the future. But that space of the forest, we have to be comfortable in that unknown of it, in the discomfort in the unknown of the space. Because within ourselves, deep within ourselves, that's where we find our deep meaning. And there's a lot of unknown when we go deep within ourselves, and we have to discover that. So what we've definitely learned from being out in the forest is we need to start to be comfortable in that unknown out there, and be uncomfortable in the unknown within ourselves, and start to discover what that is.
Yep, and also being in the forest and within nature, you start to really get a good feel of this is what we are as well. What we look at, what's in front of us, what we're in right now is who we are on such a deep level. And when she talks about space, especially coming from the city, I found myself one night in the Manistee Forest. It was so quiet, and my mind is so used to the sounds of the city, traffic, noise, and that quiet, it was just like my mind didn't know how to grasp onto that. So it was almost in a way starting to play tricks on me. Like, what was that? What was that? It's just like, there's these noises that I don't know if they were actually there or not, but, So I found my mind trying to escape further and further and further. What was that? What was that out there? So I kind of, just the awareness of what was going on was, my mind didn't know what to grab onto, so I was searching further and further and further out. But the further it got, the more uncomfortable I became. So once you experience that and you get out of your head and just allow yourself to be within your heart space, now everything around you, you just become, you become that. And then you start to understand that there's nothing to fear out here. Just because there's space out here, we don't fear that. Like, that space is within us, and that when we're in that space, with either if it's in the forest or within yourself, when you start to dismantle these identity structures that we cling onto in our lives, that space beyond it, it's uncomfortable for us. But that's where that's where the mystery and the magic of life is beyond all these identity structures into this unknown space. And breaking down the mental conditioning that we've had just, growing up in the city and just society structures, it's that space that we're really beginning to explore, and we're really beginning to see that there's so much out here and so much what it means to be a human being amongst all this, because this is what we're a part of.
Yeah. And it's really a question, when we decided to leave our house, are we willing to do this? Are we willing to step into not knowing where we're going to be week after week? Are we willing to be uncomfortable with being out in nature, being uncomfortable with having all our belongings on our car and packing them up back and forth? Because there's been a lot of discomfort with all of that, and we are willing to do it because we have a young child, and we know that this is the only way that we can start to discover what it means to bring ancient wisdom into a modern world so that we can keep this planet here.
Yeah, and we see the effects of complacency today. We know what our lives are doing. We know what's going on in the forest with our planet. I mean, we see it in the form of, wildfires and, oil spills. Like, we know this is going on, but we pretend it's not happening because we're comfort within the confines of our city or our home, and everything's convenient, and there's nothing to fear sitting inside your home. But when you go out there in the forest and you run across this site where it's just this huge plot of land and it's all just torn down by logging, and the devastation you see and you're amongst it, like you feel it. It touches you on such a deep level, and you begin to understand that our life today, our current way of living, our current way of being, is not in alignment with who we are. And it's the reflection, when you see a devastation like that in the forest, it's a reflection of who we are inside as humanity, how far we've come from what it actually means to be a human being. And what we find is this, as we start to explore this new way of being, how can we begin to live a new way of being in a modern way? Because let's face it, we don't want to give up our comforts. We've come a long way to get these comforts. So how do we begin to reconnect, rediscover, and start to live a life more in alignment with who we are?
Yep.
So.
I'm sure they'll take some questions if you have
Yeah.
any.
So you mentioned leaving your house, but I haven't heard you mention leaving your job. Do you feel comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, definitely. So we actually owned our own real estate company. I was doing real estate for about a little over 10 years, and then I met Fiona, and she jumped right on board with me. So we together had our own real estate company for about 5 years, and and then we just decided that was one of the things that we decided to let go.
That was big kind of that type of thing with the complacency. So we had the real estate company, and we were helping senior homeowners because they were the most vulnerable. So we were trying to find a meaning in that. But really, real estate is a profit-driven industry, and our morals just didn't align with it. So that was one of those big things that when we talk about complacency, when we looked at that and said, like, is that really what we want to be doing, or do we need to try harder to discover a better way to live our lives and to serve others? So so we let go of our real estate business, and we started doing online courses.
Yeah, and what that was a big moment for us, because you work so hard to build a business, and especially real estate. It's such a local thing that we spent so much work building our brand in the community, reaching out to different homeowners and just making connections, and it was a lot of work. So when the moment came, and so you put so much work into something, that's what you begin to identify with. Like, this is who we are. We are the real estate people. And the moment came where we really looked at ourselves and we realized this is not what we want with our lives. This is not where we're going to go. This is not what's going to get us there, wherever we're going. And it was actually surprisingly easy to make the decision like this. We don't want this anymore. And then at first we're like, okay, so without real estate, then what are we? Like, who are we? We don't even know who we are anymore. But then once we made the decision to let it go, it was actually very liberating that this isn't, we don't need this. We can move on from here now.
I got an observation and question.
Yep.
So, observation, there's a lot of different forms that protest and protect take in Indian country. And, the kind of actions that you guys are committing yourself to, I see that as both. You're protesting against the oil pipelines, but you're also protecting Mother Earth and protecting the water for future generations. And I think these forms are unique, because they're anti-colonization, they're decolonizing methodologies. And, I really appreciate the commitment that you're putting into that. How many people are really doing that? It's very neat. The question I have is, you guys are running, both of you. Are you doing it on an interval? Like, are you running the same areas? I think the feeling I got is that you're running different areas. He's running, you're running, and you're kind of leapfrogging. So again, it's a similar thing you're doing, but you both seem to have your own unique experience. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's exactly the case. Yeah, usually, most oftentimes we'll run the same day. Other times I'll run a day or she'll run a day, but usually she'll get on the trail and then I'll pick her up, and then I'll get on the trail, and then she'll pick me up at the end of the day.
Yeah, so we are going through different landscapes as well, and we're experiencing different habitats. Which can be interesting, and we spend a lot of time together. So when we're separate and we're having that time in nature, it's just really interesting to come back and see what each other got from being out there in that time.
And I just want to kind of speak on courage, because it is a courageous act to just let go of everything and do this. And I say that humbly. And with our real estate company, it never blossomed the way we wanted to blossom. And when we look back on that experience, it was because it wasn't aligned with who we were. And so it made everything hard. Everything was hard. Even when we renovated a house and got the biggest payday we've ever got, it was still like, it was never satisfying. But through all that, we actually, in the end, we didn't ever really make much money in real estate. And so, like, where we're at now, like we haven't had a paycheck since probably over a year. I don't know. It's been quite some time. And you think about that. Like, you think, like, man, how can I live without that? And from our experience, just not worry, anxiety, self-worth, all these things do not serve you. It doesn't matter how much you're making, it doesn't matter how much you're not making, you just have to be, and just allow the unknown to be a part of your life. And things do work out. Like, no matter what, like, we look back on our experience, we've had some hard experiences, and no matter how hard the experience was, at the end of the day, everything was okay, and it ended up working out to our benefit. And we committed to doing this, to selling our house, moving in a tent, and nothing was going to stop us. And when we made that decision, we had absolutely no money. We haven't paid our bills in months. We didn't know how. Like, there was days, okay, we got to go to the grocery store, but like, what can we get? Like, we only had, what can we get this week? But we were committed to going. We knew in our hearts, we didn't know how we were going to do this, but we're going to do it. And we actually went to, then we visited our family in Ireland, told them what was going on. When we told them what we were going to do, it was almost like that was like our firm commitment that we were going to do this. And lo and behold, after that, it just seemed like the universe came together and made this possible for us. Our house got sold, and we didn't think it was going to sell because it needed a lot of work. But our house got sold, and then it made this whole thing possible for us. So it was just, that was a clear example for us, the power of the unknown, and how much is out there that works for us that we can't, our minds can't even grasp it. But you just allow and commit yourself to this new way of being, and you'll find that you are a co-creator in your life. You're not 100% in control, and that co-creation always works in your favor.
And that's definitely over this past year as well. With, like Brandon said, we've had a lot of challenges, and you always think that those dips are the things that will bring you down, but they've always brought us up. And growing our faith in the Creator, God, Spirit, that has lifted our spirits. Like, neither of us really had that before this past year, and we've really put a lot of work into growing our faith and growing our trust in that unknown, because the unknown is where, like Brandon says, the magic happens. So that's been a really, really important part of our life too.
Yeah, and I know there's a quote, I don't know whose quote it was off the top of my head, but it was, we're not human beings with a spiritual experience. It's we're
spirits having a human experience.
A human experience, and we know, like, since we've adapted that idea, we've really seen that at play. And then there's this one moment in the Manistee Forest that, before I run, I always give thanks to the forests, acknowledge that, I acknowledge the trees for welcoming me here, that they are living beings. They're not just a tree, a resource. They are living beings. And that acknowledgement and giving thanks, I had this experience in Manistee Forest where right after I gave thanks, it was literally like, okay, now I gave thanks, I'm gonna run. And that first step, I felt this, I just felt like all this air on me. And I look up, and there's this eagle about 10 feet above my head, and I could literally just feel like the force from its wings coming down on me. And at first it was it kind of freaked me out just because I wasn't expecting to look up and see an eagle like that. And you don't see very many eagles in Detroit. So when I saw this eagle, I just could not believe the size and the power of this. And at that moment, because I was so fearful about going into the forest, at that moment I knew I was going to be okay. I knew it. It was like I gave thanks, I acknowledged my place amongst all of this, and it was like a message, for Mohawks, the Haudenosaunee, the eagle is the Creator's messenger. And so I felt like that right there was a clear message from the Creator that this is right where I'm supposed to be. There's nothing to fear. Just it's your time now. So that was my experience. And as hard as this gets, I can go back to that experience and know that what we're doing is right where we're supposed to be. And it's going to be cold tonight in our tent, but that's okay because that's right where we're supposed to be right now.
Oh, we've got a couple.
Yep.
I wondered, did either of you have any experiences growing up, during your own development, what you can remember of it, that you think predisposed you to being courageous enough to do this? I mean, is there anything that you're kind of reflecting back on how you were raised that gave you this sort of permission, or do you think that this is just totally off the wall, not part of your original path? You can't look back at anything that tells you that you could have been this way. I was just curious.
Yep.
I think I've always kind of been like this. I left Ireland when I was 25. I was in a very kind of a depression, and I left and went traveling on my own around Guatemala and Cuba on a soul-searching adventure, and that's how I ended up getting to Detroit, actually, and meeting Brandon. And I guess one thing that maybe would have given me a bit of courage, I grew up sailing. I grew up in Dublin, in Ireland, beside the sea, and getting out in a little boat, going out onto the water on your own, taught me a lot about trusting myself, because you are there in the boat and you have everything. You have to prepare for it too, get your boat all ready. So I definitely think that gave me a lot of good learning growing up.
Yeah. And for me, I guess I was always had a rebel spirit. So at school, You know, I was never like the academic of the year or anything like that. And I didn't go to college, and when I had a job, the last thing I wanted to do was actually have a job. So I just wanted to be my own. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to have my own business. That's how I got into real estate. So I think my mind has always been geared towards, I guess, the
Taking a picture?
I guess it's always just been geared to, you know, I don't know, like maybe anti-establishment. I don't know. I don't want to say it, but yeah. So I guess just the rebel spirit kind of leads you down certain paths. I guess. Yeah.
Amber had a question.
So, you know, as we have this beautiful baby running around here, my question to you is, as parents, like, how did you all factor in your family like this? Because I'm coming from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Lived in the middle of the city. That's where my son was born on Dakota land, and you know, we moved out here to the UT so we could raise him on our ancestral homelands, and that was huge, right? You know, buying a piece of land, and like this is what we thought we were supposed to do, to be able to raise our son, you know, in the homeland, but also in a place where we didn't have to feel fearful raising our child. Raising your child in the bush like that, like I can't. How did he factor into this? That's just terrifying, running around in the woods with a 2-year-old.
Yeah, and that's well, he was. I would say he was the main reason why we made the decision. You know, for one, it's his planet. It's like he's inheriting our planet, and it's important for us to leave it as it is for him. And when we talk about like a new way of being, you know, when we explore the forest and we see the power in the forest and the strength that it gives you, it's for us. It's like that he needs that. Like he needs that. His generation needs that. And maybe if he understands that and understands his relationship to it, then maybe he will experience life different. He won't have the extractive mentality that we have, where everything is just ours for the taking. Maybe he'll understand that there's reciprocity here. It's not just ours for the taking, but we have to give back to it as well. And from what we've seen, you know, being in our house in Ferndale, there's nothing for him to do. Like being in the backyard, we had a small backyard, so like there was nothing back there for him.
Well, he had a playhouse and he had toys and stuff, but he was always like wanting more. He was just always wanting to expand, and he went to daycare for a little while too, and he enjoyed it. But you could just tell he just wanted more, and like he was definitely a huge factor in us deciding to do this. And it takes a lot of planning, and it's more work, but you know it's.
But it isn't, and it isn't all the same, because like in the city, we always had to entertain him, and if we couldn't do it, then we had to throw him in front of the TV, and then like, you know, then he's just sitting at the TV, just staring at the TV. You know, it's just like you don't want to just numb him all the time, and especially working from home, and with COVID going on, daycare is real limited, so like we didn't have very many options, but being outside, even like when it's cold, like it was last night and today, like he's just flourishing. Like we don't even need to watch him or anything. He just goes, plays with a stick, or he's digging in the dirt, or he's finding a bug, or he's playing with a tree, or there's so many things that fascinate him out there. And then we think too, like, you know, oh, it's going to be cold. But I think as we get older, we become weaker in that regard. Kind of because of him, like he wakes up and he doesn't even want to get his clothes on. Like this morning, like he doesn't even want to get his clothes on. We have to like force him to get his clothes on. Like, no, it's cold. You have to put clothes on. So I think it's actually been easier for him, for sure.
I gotta tell you, you know, he knows more about how to use a phone than I do. He has this figured out.
Great. Well, let's give Brandon and Fiona another hand. I'm sure if you have more questions for them, they'll be more than willing to talk.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks again,
awesome.
everybody.
Thank
and
you all.
Thanks, Amber, for inviting us.
I'm just gonna
appreciate it.
Here. And thank you, Amber, for bringing them to the library, because I wouldn't have known anything about it. So I do come back. There's lots of programs coming up. Next week we've got Dr. Amy Hamilton doing a keynote address here in the community room on Monday. And then we have our own Dr. Marty Reinhardt, who's going to be doing a keynote address next Wednesday at the History Center. And lots of stuff in between. There's a poetry reading on Wednesday. Tomorrow night there's something going on which I can't remember. So lots. What is it? Oh, What's Up? The astronomy event. So yeah, we got lots of cool things happening in the next couple weeks. So thank you all for coming. If you have time, there are evaluation forms back there for the NEA Big Read, which will help us obtain another NEA Big Read in the future if you can stop and fill those out. And if you haven't got a copy of An American Sunrise, I have a few left back there, so please pick up a copy. Those are free for the taking. So anyway, have a great night. Thank you all from YouTube land for joining us, and we'll see you in another event.